Welcome back, everybody, to season 4 of Activista Rise Up. This is a forum by activists where we have discussions that inspire us to move forward in the work of changing the world, because that's what activists and leaders do. We have a vision for change and a vision to drive economic and racial justice. I am so excited to be back talking to all of you. You were all asking me, where have you been? Where is your show? But here I am having great conversations with great leaders locally and nationally who have a vision for how they can make a difference in the world and bring our stories, our experiences to the forefront of the American dream. So today I have a very special guest with me, a dear friend, someone who, unbeknownst to her, became part of my support system in Washington, D.C., when I was working as a labor lobbyist for the American Federation of Labor, the AFL-CIO. And we knew the same women who were trying to make a difference in driving labor policy and Latino policy in Washington, D.C. And she became part of my circle. And I watched her develop into such a great leader. Her name is Delia Garcia. She is an executive servant leader and author of the book Latina Leadership Lessons. Delia is the first Latina and youngest woman elected to the Kansas legislature in 2004. She was also the first Latina appointed Secretary of Labor in her home state of Kansas. She is a legislator, a policymaker, a leader, and a chingona. And if you don't know what a chingona is, I am certain she exemplifies and she will tell us what that is, because that's what we all need to be able to make a difference in this world. Delia, welcome to Activista Rise Up. Such a pleasure to have you join me.
I love being back with you, Patricia, Dr. Campos-Medina.
Yes.
Anytime I have time with you, I'm excited.
Thank you so much. Well, listen, when I saw, because we've been following each other's career, and I really meant it when you were part of the circle of Latina women, and we came together through Poder Pac and Ingrid Duran and Catherine Pino, and we always make sure that we had this group of Latinas, right, in Washington, D.C., that were supporting each other. And that's what networks are important, because unbeknownst to you, you were supporting me when I was very young. So I thank you for that, because you were always such a servant leader, helping others. So when I saw your book, I said, oh my God, I have to talk to Delia about her experience writing this book,
Yes.
and what the impetus of that was. Given your experience as a legislator, as a leader, as now also as a Secretary of Labor, you have been in such important roles. And I want to ask you, what led you to want to have these 50 conversations with women across the United States? And what insights did you learn about your own leadership journey in the process of having these conversations?
Well, first, thank you, Dr. Patricia Campos-Medina. This show is the very reason, part of where I wanted to do this, to uplift leaders like yourself. Um, when I was a state legislator at the age of 27, making laws for my home state, and being the first Latina, I will have to admit it was a little lonely. But what was empowering is I had mentors to call and lean on and take advice. And so, starting with some of that journey, I wanted to encompass that in my book, and using a snapshot, because I have more than 50 friends, but a snapshot of what Latina leadership looks like across the country. The basis of this book is out of familia, love, but I wanted to do three things. And one is to uplift the veteranas who have paved the way, like Dolores Huerta, who wrote the foreword of the book, to empower our current leaders and to inspire and grow our future leaders. Because look, at the end of the day, our country is looking more and more like us, and we have got to be prepared. And this book takes some lessons to help in that preparation and having fun while doing it.
Awesome. Um, just going back to your own leadership practice, because I think that what you said about learning from others and elevating the veteranas, because
Mhm.
they have paved the way for us,
Yes,
and we also learn from them.
yes.
But the dynamics in the workplace and our society are changing. And
Mhm.
while we are becoming the majority, there's still a lot of challenges that we as Latinas face in the workplace as leaders. So, thinking of your own leadership practice, what would you say has been your biggest challenge at doing the work that you love doing? Because I know you love legislating, I know you love advocating for
Yeah,
people's rights, but and you're from Kansas. It's not like you're in Texas where there's a lot of Latinos.
right.
So, what was your biggest challenge that you face as a Latina woman with all the intersectionalities that mean? To actually lead for the state of Kansas and then lead for the nation, because now I know you have a bigger role at the U.S. Department of Labor. So
Yeah.
share that insight and how do you overcome that challenge?
So I think that's a powerful question. And for me, it's always been surrounding myself with other poderosas, what I like to say, chingonas, reinas, people who've been there, done that. I was always being in Kansas in the middle of the country. I was always looking to California and to Texas for examples. And when I found those Latinas like Gloria Molina and Senator Leticia Van de Putte in Texas, I started chasing them and I made them my mentor. I introduced myself. And so that way, when I did get elected, and I was in moments where I was crying, literally crying on the House floor on certain votes, I would call them and ask for advice, and they would be calm and they would say, it's going to be okay. And we did this. So this might be an example for you to do this. And I would take that and run. And then I looked like a superstar when really it was superstar of sisterhood. Um, so really the book is, again, is a snapshot of what national Latina leadership looks like. And I want to begin to have this conversation nationally and to build on it. Because look, our country is looking more and more like us. So we have got to be prepared that to be at the table and not on the menu, and to give those great pieces of advice of how to get through that. I like to say, one of my favorite movies is the Selena movie. And at one
Yes.
point, when they're in the bus with Selena's in the bus with her dad and her brother, and they're talking about the trip to going to Monterrey for the first time. And they say, it's hard to be a Mexican American. I have to eat frijoles and hummus. I have to watch Christina and Oprah. And at one point, as a freshman legislator, my second month being a state lawmaker, I remember going to my car and just crying. I thought, I have to quit. I'm going to quit. I don't know how to do this. I'm not enough. And I called one of my mentors crying, and they were like, who cares? Like, you're creating this new, a leader looks like, who is a Latina. And that's what I did. And they said, look, at the end of the day, just be you, uh, keep advocating for your constituents. And if you're good, they'll reelect you. If not, then you'll go on to other things. And so that's where I ended up, wiped my tears, went back into the House chambers and did my job.
I like the idea of the network, the support, the mentoring that other women give us. La comunidad, ¿no? Las amigas that lift us up when we are doubting ourselves, because that is a real thing that we women, but Latinas, we have it because we don't have a lot of role models around
Right.
us. So that happens a lot. So in those moments that you down yourself, you reach out to other friends, but um, what is that thing that kept you going, like inside of you? I know that Oprah talks a lot about that grit, that feeling in your stomach that wakes up at some moment in time. So what is that for you? Like, what makes you, when you doubt yourself or when you lose, like in this world of social justice, or we lose a lot.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so what keeps you going? I want you to dig deeper, because I think that all of us as women need to dig deeper sometimes, right?
I love this question. I wish I could take you up to my bedroom and show you what is on my bedside. I have an altar, and in the altar, I have a candle and three photos of todas mis abuelitas. Mi abuelita Socorro, mi abuelita Concepcion, and mi abuelita Luisa. And that's, there's also drama there too, because I have three grandmothers instead of two.
I
My
was
mother
wondering about that.
My mother was stolen at the border when she was 4 years old by my other grandmother, who ended up raising her. I'm blessed. All are forgiven. Things happen for a reason. But I'm blessed to have three grandmothers instead of just two. And the reason where my mother wasn't able to be found, because my biological grandmother, a farm worker, didn't have the resources, didn't have the money, didn't know English, or the citizenship. And so when my mother was taken, she looked for her for 1 to 2 days, but she had to feed the other four mouths, and have these multiple jobs. So she wasn't able to do that until 37 years later. They found my mother. So I shared that piece because that is also important. when I think about the laws that I make, I think about my family. That's what drives me. If I think that I don't have a sincere responsibility to, if I'm in that seat, if I was blessed to be in that seat in those chambers to press that button, yes or no, for my community, and I was just sitting there, I would be totally disrespecting and slapping the faces to my abuelitas and all my ancestors. So whenever it was getting tough, I would think, what would they do? Also, they're sitting up there watching me, and they're also like empowering me. Sorry, I get emotional because
No,
it's
me too.
real.
Yeah,
It's so real.
it's so
Um,
real. Yeah.
and so mi familia. I mean, that's a long-winded answer that my family is what keeps me going. My community. When I meet people that I've never met, I'm at the grocery store and they pull me aside and say, "Thank you for what you did with in-state tuition." My
Yeah.
daughter was able to go to school, and now she's an engineer and blah blah. Blah. And I'm like, I never knew these people, and so it's powerful to be in these spaces. So again, the book is representation. Representation matters, to see what we look like, see ourselves and other leaders and what's possible.
Awesome. I think that is it's talking about being connected to your roots, right?
Absolutely.
And remembering where you come from, so that is the story that you bring into those spaces. Because just what you share about your grandmothers having to move across borders and without intentionality created this bigger family for you, but that all that is such a unique experience for you to be able to share it with others and bring it to the forefront.
Yes.
So when you are in these spaces of power, of influence, and you look around and you don't see others like you, what is how do you make sure that you are not the only one that came and once you leave, there's others, like, because that requires intentionality as well as leaders to make sure that we're bringing others so that there's more of us when we leave.
And I love that question because I've seen that demonstrated from when I met Dolores Huerta in 23 years ago. I thought she's a superstar. I couldn't even speak because I was so like, what do I say to this icon, this labor icon?
Yes.
And she just was like, here's my cell phone, like whenever you need it. And I thought, is she serious? As I called just to practice to see if it was her number. And there were the moments when we were, on the budget floor at 2 a.m. debating stuff that impacted our communities, our familias. I remember calling her one night and just crying, and she's like, "Oh, it's okay. Like that happened to us in the 70s and 80s." And I was like, oh, she's brushing it off, and I need to too, and just keep going. But also, working for one of the first Latina state senators in Texas, Senator Van de Putte. It was those examples that what worked for her, and I would try out in Kansas. And this book offers those leadership lessons that you can try out for yourself. Some may work for you, some may not. Some are fun, some are real. But I like the authenticity of some of the lessons. Yeah, I love it. Every time I keep reading, I keep learning something new.
Yeah, I was reading some of them, and it's powerful to hear other women saying their own stories, things
Mhm.
that you must do along the way in your pathway, because different lessons work at different points in time, right?
Yes.
So, what some of the lessons that some of the women share that stood out for you as, yes, I know what that means?
Yeah. One of the fascinating, beautiful things, I want to write a book about writing the book because I learned so much about them, my
Yes,
friends, and myself. Many of them don't know each other altogether,
yes.
but what they had a common thread of the top number one. I don't want to give too much away in the book, but one of the top ones was
Yes, you can buy it and read it.
believing in yourself. We all have those imposter syndrome moments, those doubting ourselves, and those times we follow that gut, that feeling in your tummy and your heart where it makes you tremble. Those are the powerful moments that you've got to follow. And reading that in the book with some of the ladies' responses was powerful. Another powerful one that I need to really intentionally practice a little bit more is what I like to call the sana sana colita de rana, that self-care, self-love,
Yes.
the importance of that. If we are not taking care of our own health and taking care of ourselves, we do not have the capacity to do that for others. And we have to exemplify that. So that's one that I struggle with. But I also do another one, which is surrounding ourselves with other chingonas poderosas, like Patricia here and others, and we don't have to be in the same city. That's the beauty of it.
Yes.
Is it can be virtual, it can be through the book. Some of the readers I may never meet, and I hope if I inspire one person, then the purpose of this book has been done. And that's what I hope the book does.
And that's powerful, because I always say, I celebrate every Latina success as my own, because I am so excited to see them succeed, because that gives other Latinas the opportunity to say, yes, I can do it.
Yes.
And that, for me, we have to do that more for each other, right? Like,
Yes.
I am a labor activist, I am a minimum rights activist. That's my lane. But if there is a Latina executive that is succeeding, I am applauding it, because I
Yes.
want more Latinas to be successful executives as well.
Amen.
Yeah, and stay connected and rooted to the community. So, what would you say to your younger self today about leadership? And in that question is the premise is, why do you want young Latina women to get from this book, so that we don't have to repeat the mistake? Like, what would you tell to yourself when you were, a teenager, or in college, and what do you want young Latina women to get out of this book?
Yeah. I would probably say to my younger self a lot of things, but and it's in the book too.
Yeah.
But being open to continuously being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So many times I had to learn, like, being the first and making sure I'm not the last, moments. And so being comfortable with being uncomfortable is the biggest moments of growth, and it has been for me. And I am now excited of looking forward to more of that, because I now look at my career, when I did do that, how amazing that feeling was, and to see the impact I made for people I loved and people that I have love for that I have never met or may never meet. But that public service, has been ingrained in me growing up, and also that responsibility of I have what I have because others have done what they've done, and acknowledging that, because I don't think we can, look, I always say I thought life was like lived a certain way, this linear piece, and
Yeah.
now I've learned that it's curvy like me. And so I want to embrace those curves. I want others to embrace those curves, because those curves are luscious. Uh,
Yes.
Showing a new and cool way of what this country looks like and is about to look like. And representation matters. I know that. I get it. I lived it. Being in the middle of a country, like a state like Kansas, I looked to my left, I looked to my right, and I was like, why was I afraid of these people? What was and then I own my power. But then
Yeah.
sometimes I would lose that. And then surrounding myself with other poderosas to remind me to own my power is what is needed at all times.
Yeah. Owning your power, owning your story. You talk a lot about that, on the book, and the women in the book talk about owning your story, knowing who you are and why you are in that place, and being clear about your vision. I was reading, and one person who stood out to me is Angel Palermo. I like her story, and she's so powerful and clear.
Yes.
And I like how she says that you have to be clear about your vision and what you want for yourself.
Yes.
And then you have to have, and she talks in scientific terms. You have to have a formula about,
Yes.
yeah. And so I found that, like, clear, because sometimes we as Latinas and as women, we sometimes just respond to what people want from us,
Mhm.
because that's how we're conditioned. So how do you stay focused on what you want for yourself? And that doesn't mean that you are selfish. It just means that you're clear about how you engage with people to get you to where you're going. How do you do that?
Well, first I look for people I want to be like. And then if I don't know them, then I go directly and see if I can meet them somehow, some way. So that's that piece I was talking about, being uncomfortable, being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yeah. Is it crazy just to pick up the phone and call Dolores Huerta directly? Maybe
Yeah,
not, but the worst I can say is no, you'll be in the same place.
yeah,
And so identifying first who those people I want to be like, and then adopting them as mentors somehow, some way, directly reaching out to them. Or if I know somebody who knows them, I reach out to them. Hey, can we have some cafecito? Can you introduce me to, Dolores Huerta or whomever I want to be like? And then start that conversation. And when I get that golden moment to meet with that poderosa, chingona, reina that I want to be like, that I maximize that time, because I know more than likely that person is busy and they're gifting me that beauty, that time. And so I want to be able to have the questions ready, but also to listen. God gave us two ears and one mouth for a reason.
Yeah.
And so that is to always be open to being a lifelong learner, um, and not being stuck in ways. And then also learning from breaking of what my family, I'm second generation. When my family came here to the United States, they were living to survive. I recognize that. I appreciate that. I honor that. And one way to honor that legacy is to do what I'm doing right now. Yes, public service has been for me making laws for my state. Public service has been serving as Secretary of Labor. I'm running two national nonprofits for more farm workers and women. But this is a new way for me to give service through this Latina Leadership Lessons book, and sharing that service of, let me help grow other leaders. Let me honor and uplift the current ones we have. So I look at it as a way I'm defining it of, this is my way of service now, a different look.
It's a different, and it's so empowering for you to be telling the stories of these powerful women, and for you to be telling your story. I mean, I started the show saying that you were part of my support system when we were contemporaries. We were around the same age, and we were both like Latinas in Washington D.C. And we purposely created this network. And I like your recommendation of always having a network of other Latinas to
Yes.
help you figure this out, and look for the veteranas to
Yes.
give you advice and hold you. So how can people build that network? How can they use this book to build that network, and where can they get it? And I highly
Yes.
recommend all of you buy it.
Yes, please
Yeah.
buy Latina Leadership Lessons. You can go to, as long as you know how to spell my name, it's Delia. So www.deliagarcia.us/the book. And that is DELIAGARCIA.US. That means you and me, us,
Yeah.
/the book. There you'll see the icons. You get into Amazon, Barnes and Noble, your own local bookstore. But also you're going to see cities that we're going to be in across the country, in Puerto Rico también, and activities. So look, as I shared, this is just a snapshot of what Latina leadership looks like. There are more of us. So this is starting a conversation. So what you also will see on our website is activities, some chingona chats that we're going to have, some comadre circles that we're going to have in certain locations. If you want to open a space to have that, we're happy to engage and uplift that. We want to really have some fun. This is not just a book just to read and learn from. It is to actually activate. I firmly believe that leadership inspires somebody else to move to do the same in whatever industry and space they're in. I'm not an engineer, but when I see a Latina or another woman or person of color or someone that looks like me, that intersectionality, I want to applaud her. This book is applauding these individuals and others like us. And so this is the beginning of it starting. I have to say, we've only launched for the past 6-7 weeks. We have been in 6 or 7 cities.
Awesome.
New Jersey, LA, DC, San Antonio, Houston. And this is just the beginning. I didn't think this was going to happen so much and so fast, but I want to lean in and embrace it and invite others to do it. I want everybody to own this book. I put it together, but it's all of ours, not just mine. And I'm excited to what happens next. I don't know what that is, but I know it's going to be exciting.
Well, I encourage everyone on my show, if you're to buy the book, maybe host a reading party, because I like the idea of this book being a tool to bring other Latinas together to celebrate each other. And you're absolutely right. These are just 50 women that are doing great things, but there's 500, there's 5,000 more Latinas who are doing it. And let's use this book to celebrate each other and to bring other Latinas together and expand our circle of chingonas, of
Yeah.
poderosas, of reinas, whatever we call ourselves. Let's expand that circle and elevate each other. And Delia, we're going to have the information about where to get your book, how to do it on our website, and on all our communication circles. And I encourage all the Latinas who got a snippet of what this conversation could be, to host a reading party. And if you're in their towns, to please show up and meet you, because you are also a powerful energy. Every time I'm around you, I just feel so happy, and I feel like, oh my God, I want
Thank
more. I want more of that powerful light. So yes,
Amen. And then also my social media is also on the website. So I'm on everything: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of it.
yeah, awesome. Thank you for spending this time with us and for sharing your stories and for sharing the stories of other women to inspire the next generation of young Latina poderosas, reinas, chingonas, and líderes. That's what we need to change this country and to make sure that our community has a voice. So that our children can have a bright future. So thank you
Amen.
so much.
Thank you, doctora.
Te quiero mucho.
Igualmente.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Ciao. Great stories, great energy, great vision for how to inspire the next generation of activists, of leaders. Activista Rise Up is about stories like today. Join us, join the movement, elevate your own story, and let's change, let's create opportunity for all women and all young girls. Thank you. This is Activista Rise Up. I'm so happy to be back with all of you. Follow us, share this story, and buy this book, Latina Leadership Lessons by Delia Garcia.